Now that you learned about the conflict, let's hear from an expert on her personal insight of the conflict and the war.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Martinet. I've been at Louisville, I don't know, maybe 30 years, going on 30 years. And I currently teach world history and psychology and government. And in the past, I've also taught U.S. history. I've taught in the religion department. And my background was political science undergraduate. So my feelings on what's happening, I like everyone, certainly in our country and around the world, it's just so tragic and so sad to see Putin so aggressive. And what he's thinking in his mind, I'm sure, is that he wants to back to a time period where communism was much more dominant in that region. And I think that he, unfortunately, just my fear is that he won't stop until he achieves his goals. So in Ukraine, just the aggression there, it's just heartbreaking. These people trying to fight to preserve a democratic way of life. And it's inspiring, their courage. It's very moving to me as an American who's always been lucky enough to live in a democratic country and is taking that for granted. I'm so moved and inspired, and yet, I just don't know how this will go for Ukraine. Yeah. So definitely, when we look at the breakdown of the Soviet Union, I think Putin was a young man when he was stationed in Germany when the wall came down in the late 80s. And they say that had a really profound effect on how it really just changed his life. He was devastated. He saw communism literally crumbling. And he perceived a weakening of his country. And so I think this early event really kind of shapes him, and he just becomes, that is his life goal, that he is going to try to restore the power and the dominance of what the Soviet Union looked like at the height of the Cold War. And that is, we've seen this now in succession, with Crimea, and he's had a systematic plan in place, and we're seeing that unfold right now. Trying to get into Putin's brain is it's very interesting, from a psychological perspective. And this is a person, obviously, that is a tyrant, is a dictator, who is a narcissist, probably, and really you start to wonder if he's really truly in touch with reality. And so that's a little frightening that he has nuclear capabilities, and we're not even sure how stable this person is. But again, I think for me personally, I'm just really truly feel doubly blessed that I live here, and that as an American citizen, I want to do everything I can to share how lucky we are, and for people not to take that for granted. So that's probably my big takeaway.
Now let's hear from a Ukrainian girl on her experience of the war and how it has affected her and her family.
My name is Anastasia Kozachenko, and I'm from Kyiv, Ukraine. I moved here when I was 6 years old, but my whole family still lives in Ukraine, and I want to talk about the effect that it has on me today. One big issue that has impacted me to this day is people grouping me as Russian. As soon as I tell them that I'm Ukrainian, they say that Russian and Ukrainian speak the same languages, and they don't see them as two separate countries. To this day, most of my family still lives in Ukraine, and they can't live the life that they used to before the war started. My cousin's 17 right now, and before he would go to school every day, but now, because of the war, he can't go to school and he's doing online. My other cousin, he's 21, and he can't go to work because every single job and almost every single store is shut down. When I talk to my family on the phone, they tell me that when they go to sleep and when they wake up, they hear the bombs and their house starts shaking. There's a draft in Ukraine right now saying that if you are male from the ages of 18 to 60, you cannot leave the country. One of my cousins, who's 21 years old, is currently required to go and fight in the war. His brother, who's 17 years old, could leave the country, but he doesn't want to leave his brother behind. When the war started, I moved back to Ukraine for 6 months. All the places I went to and visited are now destroyed. Extremely saddened by this whole situation, and I hope the war comes to an end soon. Not knowing if my family is okay scares me a lot. I hope that innocent people stop dying, and I know that Ukraine will win the war and this will all be over soon. If you're willing to donate either money or supplies, We the Ukrainians is an Instagram account for the Ukrainian army.
Thank you so much for listening and watching the editorial video, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot of new things about the conflict, whether you knew about it or not. Now, there are several resources at the end of the editorial website that you can access in order to donate or to somehow support the entire conflict and the war. Please continue and read the other parts of the website, such as the editorial and satire, and don't forget to take the survey and the poll. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please reach out to me.